Hello, everyone, and welcome to TAG Tech Talks. I'm Larry Williams, President and CEO of TAG, and I'm pleased to bring you another edition of this podcast featuring our technology community's best and brightest leaders. This podcast is all about showcasing what makes Georgia the number one place to do business and bringing stories of our technology community and our remarkable TAG members and how they are driving innovation that both benefits our local technology community and really has a global impact. Today, I'm joined with Phyllis Newhouse. Phyllis is an entrepreneur, retired military senior non-commissioned officer, mentor, founder, and CEO of Xtreme Solutions. She's also the founder of ShoulderUp, a pioneer in cybersecurity. Phyllis is the first woman to win an Ernst & Young EY Entrepreneur of the Year award in the technology category. She is passionate about women-led businesses. Phyllis teaches inspiring entrepreneurs to recognize and capitalize on their leadership skills and empowers others to operate in greatness. I've had the privilege of partnering with Phyllis at the Technology Association of Georgia and TAG on a task force established by our board of directors to focus on social justice and equality. And that's a part of one of your passions that I want to focus in on today. But please join me in welcoming Phyllis Newhouse. Hi, Phyllis.
Hi, Larry. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So kind of you to join us.
Yeah, I see you already started Christmas.
That's right. It's right here on us. It's after Thanksgiving.
There we go.
Good time. So we're ready to go. Well, this is an important conversation, and you and I have had both formal and one-on-one conversations about this. And I think really how we address and how we recognize TAG's role in achieving social justice and equality is one of the most important things that we can do, and a unique leadership opportunity for all of us. And I know that's a passion of yours. But to start with, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about your role at Xtreme Solutions, but also ShoulderUp. Those are two very important things for us, and your collaboration with Viola Davis. And so tell us a little bit about your career journey and how that all brought you to where you are today.
Wow, Larry, that was a lot of stuff to tell you about.
Big question.
I might be here all day, but I'm going to give you a snapshot of my journey. How about that? I share a snapshot. When I left the military, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I knew that I was going to stay in something I had already been focused around in the military was cybersecurity. So starting the firm, I just really knew that it was a needed service. I knew that there were solutions that we could build. And so I went on a journey along with partner Herbia Ingram. We started Xtreme Solutions, and we've been able to grow as the evolution of cybersecurity has become a problem. And most cyber companies, as you can see, if you look at any market today, are really some of the companies that have scaled and grown because of the service and solutions. So when I think about my own journey, I think about really focusing and knowing that niche area that we could focus on, that we could really solve real problems. And so for me, being in this industry is really not, although I see there's an opportunity for revenue growth, I see more of an opportunity to solve real world problems. And if you look at what's going on today with the latest hack we just had and how that's going to impact our critical infrastructure and really the impact, then you'll see why there are so many people. I think it's not just a passion to be in this field, but it is also knowing that there is a need for people to be in this field. And so that I'll pause there for a second. And so as I have grown and the company has grown, it has just really allowed me, Larry, to be able to have a platform that I can use to be impactful. And so over the years, I've used that to help with women in technology, people of color, look at it from how diversity can impact and drive innovation. I've also looked at how technology can be used in communities and help better communities. So one of the things that I've focused on for many, many years have been really women in technology, but really empowering women. And so I would tell you this, that over the last 3 years, I really focused on how to better grow opportunities for women. So with that, I had a great opportunity with Viola Davis. And she and I filmed really about our lives and how we came together and how women can use that and leverage and shoulder up. And that's how Shoulder Up was born, is two women coming together, two different industries, seeing how those industries do overlap, and then how she was using technology. Viola's company was working on VR, and she was really trying to understand the technology so that she can deploy that in some of their movies and the things that they had already in production. But we also saw an opportunity to leverage that as women, and how did we build a better community of women sharing? And I can, share some other things down the road with you. But I just think women have an opportunity now to lead and be in a position to be impactful right now. And I think it's critically important for organizations like Shoulder Up to be out there helping, lead the force.
That is great. Thanks for sharing that with us. And just sticking with your own personal story, Phyllis, can you share with us of what you've done throughout your career? What have you done to overcome both the overt as well as any undercurrent of social justice and race inequity throughout your career and throughout, as it is, as you found it throughout the country?
Larry, that's a really deep conversation. There have been many opportunities I've had to, and there have been in so many instances I've had to overcome that. I've had to move around that. I was sharing this yesterday with a pioneer who started the first bank, and she started a bank at 26 years old, and went on to sell it. And I said to her, she said, Phyllis, I've had to overcome the fact that I was a woman for many years. How have you had to overcome being an African-American woman in tech? I said, first of all, that's not going to change. I'm still going to be Black tomorrow, and I'm still going to be a woman tomorrow. So I said, what I've learned to do is to use that to my advantage and show a different perspective of why it was imperative that I was in that room at that table or sitting in that seat. And I've been able to do that, Larry, even in my military career. I've been the only woman in that room sometimes, but I've been able to have a perspective and suggest that you give me an opportunity to share that perspective with you. And I think sometimes you can walk into that room and know that the odds are against you, or you can say, how do I use the odds that are against me to better this room, to better that room, to better that table, to better that seat that you're sitting in. And I think I learned at an early age from foundation. You say, how have I been able to do it? You sticking to the core principles that I was raised with. And that is that you matter, you're important, and you have something that you have to bring to the table. And I think that, I always think of this, Larry, it's a value card. I bring a value card to the table that I know what it is. And every time I throw that card out, I'm winning. So if you think you're going to beat me on that day, you're not, because I know what the value card that allows me to win. And I've stuck to that same principle in every facet of my life, and certainly in business, and certainly in my career.
Well, that's been a common lament, right, for women across the board, is they feel like they've always had to work harder and be better prepared than everybody else in the room.
Absolutely. And that goes back to that value card. I know what my work ethics are, so that's a value card. I know that I have the experience. That's a value card. I know that I have the capabilities, and I know that I can, I can really rise above a lot of things. And so I have to know in that moment, you're going in that room, and there are not going to be minorities in that room. There are not going to be women in that room. And whatever that situation is, I think that we have the power to use that to our advantage and show the room why it's important that we're there. Why is it that I'm here? And what value am I bringing to the table? And I think sometimes if you're so caught up, whether you're a woman, whether you are a person of diverse, I think sometimes if all you can see is the obstacle and all you can see is that stop sign, you'll paralyze yourself. So I like to look, what's beyond the stop sign? What's stopping me? Well, hell, just go around it. Go around the stop sign. Something's on the other side. So that's how I kind of like to approach things.
You're very, very much a leader in the community throughout, and as you built this, but how are you today? How are you building diversity, equity, and inclusion to drive innovation within your own company, but also throughout the technology community?
Yeah, you know what, Larry, I think that's a very important thing because, I went to this model, and I think I've shared this with you before, but I went to a model where I don't do job interviews. I think if you take the interview out and you allow people to come and pitch what's your best asset that you can bring to this company, I think you'll get a diverse culture unintentionally. It's just one of those things where if all people, and I relate this, and I said this to an executive one time when I was in the military. He said, we don't want to see what a person looks like. We just want to hear what they can do. And so we had these blind interviews. And what I mean by blind, we didn't get to see what people look like. We got to hear them, and then they came in after they got the job. And we realized how diverse that room looked, how diverse. So it was unintentional. And I use that same model today by allowing people to come in and pitch an innovation. What do you see in the market that we're not doing? What could we be doing better in the market? What have you done? What experience do you bring to the table that can create innovation? And ultimately, when you have a diverse workforce, I think it automatically drives innovation. It drives everything about your culture. And so for me, it's getting away from the traditional interview style, because if you look at our generation of millennials today, they're not checking their values at the front door. And sometimes you need to have that perspective. They want to come in and say, we need to change the world tomorrow. And I think we need to do it in 65 days. And if you don't have that perspective, you're like, whoa, where did this kid come from? And then when you sit down and listen to their thought-based communities, I think you'll see why that's important in your organization, to think of ways that you can build a more diverse organization without doing it the same way. Do something different. What could we do that would be different than we've ever done before? And I think if leaders challenge themselves to what is so different, is so, off the cliff, we're going to do it. We're going to try it. And then look how your organization would change. Just instantly, it would change.
That's excellent. One of the things that, and you and I have talked about it, is we don't see many women or diverse executives in cybersecurity. You're a cybersecurity expert. We talk a lot about that in another segment, but what is needed to move the needle? How do we get more women and Black, brown people involved in this great industry of cybersecurity? You can go broader in technology, because these are great, and it calls careers, because these are pathways for growth, and people can contribute at all different levels and have a wonderful, wonderful, meaningful occupation and professional life.
Larry, I'm so glad you asked me this question. Most males would dare not ask that question, right? In fear of what Phyllis is going to say. It's really interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I joined an organization. It's Women in Cyber, Women Executives in Cyber. And these are some of the top women in cyber around the country and outside the United States. It was about 40. And what was so fascinating, when I sat and I listened to the things they've done in cyber, and they've not gotten recognition for it, not that they were seeking it, but I just thought how fascinating and so super smart a lot of these women. And what we were talking about is that how we're getting large organizations, like, some really huge cyber organizations, to stop having all these all-male panels and integrate those panels with women who are on some leading edge technologies out there that they've built. And not only that, they have a perspective that they can bring to the table and leverage that. And so here's what we talked about, is that why do we believe there's not a lot of executives in cybersecurity? Because of messaging. There's a message that starts all the way from middle school to high school to college to getting in corporate America. And there's a message that says, you're not going to be the top executive, but you're going to work for the top executive. And so that messaging that's happening is like, oh, you can go get a job for Jim, but what if you're creating jobs for Jim? And and so we talked about that we have to find a way that the message is changing. There's a message that says that you've earned the right, you've earned a PhD in mathematics and cyber to be sitting in that seat as the CIO or the CTO. And so we believe that, but we also think that there's an opportunity to rethink the job requirement list. You can never get that executive position if it says you need 15 years in leadership when you haven't had 15 years. So you're automatically knocked off the list. You don't even make the list, but yet you're sitting there as an innovator, and you're sitting there with some amazing thoughts on how we can build a better technical platform, but you can't get that job because you don't have 15 years. And so this guy really doesn't have 15 years. He's managed for 15 years, but he's not really been involved in the research and development for 15 years. So I think, redoing the job list. And I think there's a lot of giving back that has to happen. The few that are women that are executives that are in those leadership positions, it's how we take those leadership positions now and go back and mentor and coach and advise others to move through the ranks. It is going to take a lot of us going beyond a little bit more than giving back. I say you got to give all. We have to give it all, not just give a little back. No, give it all back, because that's what's going to create the next future of women leaders and executives in cyber.
That's interesting. I've even read statistics that it's in the 8th grade that a lot of young women make the choice of whether or not they think they can pursue a STEM curriculum and leading into a STEM career. And probably a lot of bad reasons about why they might opt out. Ever seen anybody like them? No example. People that do STEM and math aren't cool. A lot of things like that. And I think those are stigmas we have to get up. And then right here in Georgia, we have got a great example in Sarah Blakely and what she did to grow a globally dominant company, and other great leaders as well. And we've got to put those front and center. So I love that. We got to give back. We got to give it all back.
Yeah, give it all back. Because the give back thing, people think if I do one little thing, then I'm done. I gave back. But our generation, the generations behind us, Larry, I honestly believe we need to give a lot more back in order to get them going, especially in this country today.
Phyllis, what do we need to do to keep Georgia at the forefront of the Black and brown entrepreneurship and innovation?
Well, going back to my last statement, yeah, there's a lot of give back that needs to happen, and give back, give all, and give up. Give up the opportunities, give up the connections, give up the resources. I think that's what needs to happen. And, it's interesting. I just spoke to some very young junior entrepreneurs that's in tech. And one of the questions that I asked, this is all really just rock stars. And I said, tell me what you need from the community in Georgia to feel like you belong to the community, number one, and to feel like the community respects your perspective on what you can give. And how do we get you going? How do we move this conversation forward, other than just a conversation? And Larry, honestly, it really came down to, they said, there's a lot of resources in Georgia, but the resources are deployed to other people that don't look like us. All the resources, there's grants, there's these innovation labs, there's all these dollars that get diverted to other places, but not accessible to us. And so that was the first thing I took away from that. The other thing that I took away, Larry, was we just need the opportunities. And they were talking about, corporations, partnering with them, having programs that allow them to come in and pitch their ideas and innovation, their companies. And they were saying it's not just enough. During my generation, my time, Larry, it's been enough for the diversity and inclusion and supplier diversity programs. That's how I was able to survive. But those programs are so saturated now that they're looking now for how can we not get caught in a portal of 7,000 vendors that are Black and brown. This is just a conversation I just had. They said, look, we don't want to be a part of another portal. We want ideas. We want another idea on how we can get into that company to do business. There's 7,000 on the list waiting to get in.
You're a big advocate of the 5 connections. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I believe that the resources, opportunities, and connections. And I think that when you give those connections to people, when you give them the opportunity, when you give them the resources, I'm a big component of that, because I know, Larry, I always say this, and I said this to you before, you're one connection away from your business community just changing. You have an opportunity to change at any time.
Phyllis, I'm always delighted to speak with you, and I know we've only scratched the surface in this brief time that we've had together, but thank you so much. Thanks to everyone joining this edition of TAG Tech Talks. Phyllis Newhouse, you're a great leader. You're a great contributor to the TAG Board of Directors, making sure that we're doing everything that TAG can do to be representative of our membership and the community. And it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. I'm Larry Williams. I'm the President and CEO of TAG. Please find out more about TAG Tech Talks at tagonline.org.